Hello friends, myself CA SANKALP KANSTIYA. By profession, I am a chartered accountant and a company secretary. Graduated from NM Narsi Monji College, Villeparle. Worked with JP Morgan in their asset management division for a span of 4 years. Currently, I head Innovative Solutions, which is into professional training for CA, CS and international CFA, and also financial advisory and portfolio management. Well, the topic for discussion today is basics of taxation system in India. India has a very unique taxation system. In fact, some of the scholars have said that India's taxation system is considered to be one of the most difficult and complicated ones. Well, therefore, it becomes very much essential and necessary to understand the intricacies of this system. Well, let me tell you one thing, that taxation system in India is way old. 1961 is when the first income tax law was enacted in India post independence. Prior to that, we have seen films like Lagan, just giving you a brief of what exactly this taxation system means. We have all seen the American movie Lagan. What was that? We've seen other movies wherein there is a customs to give some amount to Rajas as a part of entry or exit in the whole area that the Raja, the area that Raja belongs to. Well, going connected with that, that is what taxation system is. It is a collection by the various government, various authorities in order to ensure that the whole functioning of the government is in a proper and smooth manner. And that is where the whole system of taxation emerged. In the movie Lagan, we saw that how the Britishers collected some in the form of agricultural produce of the Indian farmers. Now, we've also seen Rajas taking a gift form of customs in order so that people can enter their kingdom. That is where the taxation system found its real beginning. Well, as I said, in terms of law, it was enacted in the year 1961, and that is when Indian taxation took a big turn. Through a journey of 60-65 years, Indian taxation system has seen manifold changes, some positive, some negative, and moving towards direct tax code. That is where again we will see how things are going to change in this dynamic environment. Friends, the first and foremost thing that I would discuss about taxation is the need for taxation. That is where the first question arises. Why do you need the system of taxation in any country or in any place? टैक्सेशन है क्या? अगर एक हिंदी भाषा में बोलूं तो कर है क्या? Taxation, as I have seen, is a form of collection by the government for a smooth functioning of their own kingdom or country, as the case may be. Obviously, the kingdom arena is no more, so it is the country that we are speaking about. That is where the taxation system comes in. I will relate this whole taxation system of India with a company which is functioning for some profit. So you will see how we can connect with a company and the taxation system of India. Now, India, as you all know, is a democratic country. Democracy is the base on which Indian legislature or Indian constitution stands, and that is where the taxation system derives its base from. Constitution of India. Constitution of India, laid in the year 1950, specifies the taxation policies that are there in India. not exactly the constitution, but yes, the taxation policies derive itself from the Constitution of India. If the constitution was not there, the power to levy tax does not come into picture. And that is where the most important article, Article 246 of Constitution of India, plays a very, very important role. Article 246 says, no tax can be levied or collected. Listen properly. No tax can be levied or collected in India unless the Constitution of India gives the authority to collect taxation. As I said, unless the Constitution of India, so Article 246, yes, in Constitution, when we read the Constitution, it is the article that plays an important role. Sections, as we see in law, in the same way, articles and entry is what will be the reference point while reading the Constitution of India. So, Article 246 of Constitution of India says, no revenue can be levied or collected unless authorized by the Constitution of India. So, Constitution of India authorizes the government of India to introduce the taxation system through its Article 246. Now, as discussed, Constitution of India, भारतीय संविधान आर्टिकल 246 के तहत लगता है कर, taxation, very, very important aspect of each and everybody's life. Now, as I said, the Constitution of India gives the authority for taxation. We are trying to understand why do we have this system of taxation in the first place. I think almost all the countries, all the continents throughout the world have this taxation. Some have a low amount of taxation, some have a very high amount of taxation, whereas some are called as tax havens, wherein no tax is levied or tax is levied at a 0% percentage. Here, taxation system in India is broadly classified into a reasoning of 4 things. Yes, 4 primary aspects govern the taxation system of India. First and foremost, the obvious, revenue generation. As told by me earlier, we will try and link the Constitution of India or the Indian government as if it is a good company, a joint stock limited company. How a company tries to earn profits, in the similar way, how the government is trying to earn the revenue. Why is it trying to earn the revenue? So the first and foremost is revenue generation, and the main reason for revenue generation is welfare of general public. That is the prior motive why taxation system has been introduced anywhere in the world, including India. Second most important is called as economy management. Well, no exaggeration, but taxation system works like a remote control in the hands of the finance minister. फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर के हाथ में एक रिमोट कंट्रोल है जिसका नाम है टैक्सेशन, जिसका प्रयोग करके इट कैन एक्चुअली वर्क द इकोनॉमी ऑफ द कंट्री. We see a lot of exemptions being given to a lot of companies. Well, that is a part of economy management. We see there is tax, we see there is surcharge, we see there is cess. These things will be introduced later on to you, but all a part of economy management. इकोनॉमी मैनेजमेंट करने के लिए टैक्सेशन सिस्टम का होना बहुत जरूरी है. क्यों? क्योंकि ये टैक्सेशन सिस्टम से आपका इकोनॉमी मैनेज हो जाएगा. कैसे होगा? लॉट ऑफ इंस्टेंसेस. इंडिया में इनकम टैक्स लगता है और उसी के ऊपर लगता है सेस, एजुकेशन सेस is levied so that the education system of India can be improved. There is something called as clean energy cess. Why do you charge clean energy cess? Clean energy cess is charged so that coal manufacturing industries on whom this clean energy cess is charged, they will find it costlier, because a cess is being charged, an additional burden of taxation is being charged on these coal manufacturing industries. So say 100 rupees का कोल है, उसके ऊपर मैंने 10 रुपीस का सेस चार्ज कर दिया, तो मेरा टोटल टैक्स मिला के मेरा कॉस्ट हो गया 110. Now because of this additional burden of cess or additional burden of taxation, I will start looking for substitutes. Substitutes where there is no clean energy cess. अब अगर वहां पे सब्स्टिट्यूट है जिसके ऊपर क्लीन एनर्जी सेस नहीं लगता है, इट विल हेल्प मी टू रिड्यूस माय कॉस्ट, बिकॉज मेरा जो सब्स्टिट्यूट है उसका कॉस्ट तो 100 ही रहेगा, क्लीन एनर्जी सेस नहीं लगा है उसके ऊपर. अब उससे फायदा क्या होगा? एक, यू विल स्टार्ट लुकिंग फॉर सब्स्टिट्यूट्स विच विल गिव यू क्लीन एनर्जी, thereby ensuring that your environment is kept at a very good cleanliness and a good atmosphere is maintained. Second most important thing here is that the excess coal can be exported, resulting into foreign revenue. So कहते हैं ना, एक तीर दो निशाने. यहां पे सेस चार्ज करके गवर्नमेंट के पास एक्स्ट्रा रेवेन्यू आ गया. सेकेंड, बिकॉज मैंने एक्स्ट्रा सेस चार्ज किया है मेरा कॉस्टलियर प्रोडक्ट के लिए, सब्स्टिट्यूट फाइंड करने गया मैं, एंड एज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ दैट एक क्लीन प्रोडक्ट मेरे को मिल गया. एंड थर्ड मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग इज दैट जो एक्सेस कोल है दैट कैन बी एक्सपोर्टेड, रिजल्टिंग इन एक्स्ट्रा रेवेन्यू जनरेशन. So we saw how economy management is a remote control in the hands of our finance minister to ensure that things are managed at a optimum level. Demand and supply play a very important role in making of taxation laws in the Indian country. Medical emergencies or medical products, they will be taxed less because they are products of necessity. Salt, a product of necessity, may not be taxed at all because these are inelastic products. Any change in their cost is not going to result in any other substitute. Salt will be required by us to intake in our meals. So उसके ऊपर extra tax कभी charge नहीं करेगी government. Medical equipments, or for that matter medicines, these are inelastic. Irrespective of whatever is the cost, we are going to purchase medicines, we are going to intake salt. So that is where again economy management is done by the finance minister, ensuring that the taxation system prevails at the right place. Third important thing which we all feel does not exist but it does, and that is helps industries. A lot of industries are helped by the taxation system governing in India. We may feel that tax is only there in order to collect revenue, in order to generate revenue, but no, it also helps industries. एक छोटा सा एग्जाम्पल देता हूं. Say for example you purchase a mobile phone. Now there are two kinds of mobile phone. India में एक Indian mobile phone मिलता है, say something like a Micromax, and at the same time there is a China mobile phone. अब ये India mobile phone costs you rupees 8,000, 8 megapixel, 16 GB memory. China mobile will cost you rupees 4,000 or say 5,000, but maybe higher megapixel, 12 megapixel and 20 GB memory. Now if you look closely, you will be more tempted to buy this China mobile? Because it is costing me less, but at the same time giving me some extra higher features. Yes, in the mind I know that this China mobile might not be as worthy as the Indian mobile in terms of its quality, but price is very important factor when we are purchasing anything. Now, as a result of this price differentiation and some feature differentiation, people start using China mobile, and therefore they are proving bad for the Indian domestic industry of mobiles. That is where again the finance minister will step in with additional taxes on this mobile, ensuring that they are at a level playing field with the Indian mobiles. You know, we always hear imported product बहुत महंगा होता है. Well, the fact is imported product महंगा नहीं होता है, because of additional taxes वो imported product महंगा हो जाता है. Again, as a result of extra taxation that will be charged in this China mobile, this will move, the price of 5,000 will exceed because of the additional taxes to approximately 7,000. Now, the difference between the Indian mobile and the China mobile is reduced to a very considerable extent. As a result, you may now think of buying the domestic mobile rather than going with the imported mobile. Again, an example of helps industries. And fourth and most again important point to understand in the basics of taxation is that it disciplines citizens. Well, a very important integral part of our life is discipline. If there is no discipline internally, then things would go to a different level. Any law is always made with a clear motto of some amount of discipline. एक regular system आ जाना चाहिए, एक regular process आ जाना चाहिए, और वही process लाने की कोशिश कर रहा है taxation system. To discipline citizens in the form of penalties, in the form of excess payments, thereby ensuring that we adhere to the system managed by the taxation system in India. So here we can see that the four most important reasons why we have taxation system in India. 1. Revenue generation for the welfare of general public. Railways, roadways, defense. The soldier in Kargil is fighting a war with your enemy country. Where does the finance for that come from? Well, it comes from the taxation collected by the government. So, just to give you an idea, defense plays a very important, the taxation policies have a good amount of bifurcation wherein they give a good allocation to the defense industries. Next, economy management, remote control. Taxation is a remote control. You know, before 1990s, companies like Reliance never paid any tax or paid a tax which was very minuscule as compared to the huge quantum of revenues that they made. There came the system of minimum alternate tax, a system wherein even when the companies are making huge losses, the company might will have to pay some amount of taxation. Economy management. We saw how education cess is collected. Why? For development of education system in India. We saw how clean energy cess is imposed, resulting in better substitutes, and as a result of this, excess coal being imported, resulting in foreign revenue. Third, helps industries. India mobile, China mobile. The domestic industry got hurt, and therefore the finance minister introduced additional taxes in order to ensure that there is a level playing field. And fourth, a system wherein every law has a major role to play, which is to discipline citizens, so that things do not go out of order or out of hand. And therefore the fourth in line is to discipline citizens. So these are the four reasons why any provisions of taxations are enacted or introduced in the Indian system to help either one or two or three or four. I hope the first and the most important point of why taxation system in India has been clearly answered by these 4 points. सर क्लियर हो गया कि टैक्सेशन सिस्टम क्यों इंट्रोड्यूस हुआ है. Now let us understand what comprises of this taxation system. The question of why was answered a few minutes back. Now we will try and answer what exactly does this whole taxation system comprise of. In that, the first that we are going to speak about is income tax law. The word here to note is very important, income tax law. It is not only an act, income tax law. Always remember, it is a law which comes into the inaction by constitution, and then it has various limbs in the form of income tax act. Next in line we have income tax rules. Then notifications. Then trade circulars. And last but not the least, judicial pronouncements. Judicial pronouncements. As I said, every law will always have these 4 or 5 things in its purview. We misinterpret it to be only an act. No. कोई भी law अगर होता है तो उसमें ये चीजें होती ही है. These 5 things define the scope of this whole income tax law. So if anybody asks you what is the scope of income tax law, it has in its purview income tax act, income tax rules, notifications, trade circulars, judicial pronouncements. These are the 5 important things that are to be understood before understanding the or as a matter of understanding the income tax law. अब और एक क्वेश्चन आता है कि लॉ आता कहां से है? Is it that Constitution of India ने कहा कि yes, you are authorized to charge income tax, so क्या next day income tax आ जाएगा law? No, it is not that simple a procedure, or it is a difficult procedure wherein it has to pass through various stages of parliament. Yes, the parliament plays a very, very important role in enacting any of the laws. So वो law आने के पहले सबसे पहले आता है bill, which is nothing but a draft of the law. ये जो मैं आपको procedure बता रहा हूं, that procedure is almost applicable for any law that has been enacted in India. So any law which becomes or which comes into force first has to pass through these procedures, and the first amongst them is called as the bill, draft of the law. Lokpal bill, companies bill, income tax bill, all these were first bills, nothing but drafts, finally enacted into law. Now, as a part of the process, this bill will go through a 3-tiered process before finally becoming a law. The first in that is it will be presented in the Lok Sabha. Second, it will be presented in the Rajya Sabha. and finally after getting a yes from both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, it will finally be enacted after the assent of the President of India. So the first thing is that the bill is prepared by various experts. When this bill is prepared, the public opinion is also invited, including the bodies like Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Institute of Company Secretaries, Cost Accountants. All these bodies give their opinion, public opinion in large is invited, and finally a draft or a bill is prepared. Then, as I said, presented in Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and it finally gets the assent of the President to become the law. Now this is a process which is followed by the central government. If any tax is to be introduced for the state governments, then similar process is to be followed. But Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha and President are different for the states. For the states, this Lok Sabha is Vidhan Sabha. This Rajya Sabha is Vidhan Parishad. And President of India is Governor of State. So where central government needs to enact the law, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, President. Where state governments needs to enact its law, Vidhan Sabha, Vidhan Parishad, Governor. Next question, whether it is compulsory to first introduce it in Lok Sabha, then Rajya Sabha and then President, or any other chronology can be adopted. Well, there again is a reasoning for that. If it is a money bill, or if it is a bill wherein revenue generation is there, at such places it will first be enacted at Lok Sabha. Once Lok Sabha approves, then Rajya Sabha. And third then is the President. So by default you have to follow this chronology if any money bill is to be introduced. When I say money bill, which gives revenue or money to the government, so I can take the best example of an income tax law, of an excise law, of a customs law, wherein they are enacted for a prior motive of revenue or money generation. What if it is not a money bill? Not a money bill. So a not a money bill example, you can say LLP, Limited Liability Partnership. Limited Liability Partnership is more of a procedural bill rather than a money bill. In case of LLP, it can be either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha first. Then if first it was Lok Sabha, it will be Rajya Sabha, or if it was Rajya Sabha, then here it will be Lok Sabha, and finally it will be going to the President of India. So always keep this in mind, that if it is a money bill or revenue bill, that is where this chronology of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, President. Else either of the Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha can be presented, and finally the government gives its assent. I hope ये चीज क्लियर हो गई हो कि एक लॉ कैसे बनता है एक इंडियन सिस्टम में, ये तरह से लॉ बनता है. वैसे ही सन 1961 1961 में this is how the process went through, and finally income tax law, the basics of which we are trying to understand today, was coming into the picture. Understanding of income tax law. Constitution of India, entry number 82. Yes, entry number 82 of Constitution of India. clearly tells tax can be levied in India on any income other than agricultural income. Tax can be levied in India on any income other than agricultural income. Yes, agricultural income is something which has been kept away from the clause of taxation system in India. Now, as we discussed, that the power to levy tax has been divided into two parts. One, central government, and the other, state government. If it's a central act, that is the whole act is, or the whole law is applicable throughout the country, then it is enacted by the central government through something called as Schedule 7 of lists given by the Constitution. Schedule 7 lists down list 1, list 2 and list 3. List 1 is called as the union list, list 2 is called as the state list, and list 3 is called as the concurrent list. So list 1, union list, a direct correlation with the central government. List 2 is called as the state list, a direct correlation with the state government. And list 3 called as the concurrent list, a direct correlation with both central government plus state government. So if something is to be enacted at a center and state level combined, we take the help of concurrent list. Else we have these three lists: list 1 union list, list 2 state list, list 3 concurrent list. So central government, state government, central government plus state government. This is how it has been bifurcated in terms of Indian Constitution, or for that matter in terms of Indian scenario. Now that is where income tax law, which was enacted by the union list, that is central government, and that is the reason income tax system is the same throughout India. So if you are in Jammu and Kashmir or if you are in Kanyakumari, the same taxation or same income tax system will be applicable to both the person in Jammu and Kashmir and to the person in Kanyakumari. So all over India there is only one income tax law which is applicable. Now let us try and understand what exactly does this income tax law comprise of. First in line is called as the Income Tax Act. Second is the income tax rules. Well, I have framed them that Income Tax Act is the heart of income tax law, whereas income tax rules is the brain of income tax law. Let us elaborate what is Income Tax Act. Income Tax Act specifies the provisions that are applicable to the income tax of India, whereas the implementation of the same is governed by the income tax rules. So Income Tax Act will enumerate what are the provisions of income tax law. How is this Income Tax Act going to be implemented is what does the income tax rules. So provision maybe income tax is liable through 5 heads of income, is liable through 5 heads of income. So yes, your Income Tax Act will tell you what are the 5 heads of income. How these 5 heads of income will function is to be understood by understanding the income tax rules. This is how your Income Tax Act looks like, which enumerates all the provisions that are there. The page numbering is based on the sections. In all, there are approximately 298 to 300 sections in Income Tax Act. If you open this Income Tax Act, here on the top right hand corner you will see sections. So page numbering is based on the basis of sections. Pick up any page and the right hand corner of that page will give you the section, and that is how Income Tax Act is to be read, based on the sections. So if somebody tells you please refer section 54, I will accordingly keep on opening, not on the basis of pages but on the basis of the sections. So section 54 you can see on the top right hand corner of the book. On the left pages it is on the left corner of the book. So this is how your Income Tax Act is to be read. Next, as I said, is the income tax rules. Income tax rules is the governing for Income Tax Act. So here Income Tax Act has said the provisions. Say provision they have said that salary, or for that matter perquisites, form part of salary. So perquisites or allowances form part of salary. Okay, this is what Income Tax Act has said. It stops here. Now how is this perquisite or allowance is to be valued will be determined by my income tax rules, which is this. क्या पूरा का पूरा perquisite taxable होगा या कुछ amount taxable नहीं होगा? क्या पूरा पूरा allowance taxable होगा या कुछ amount नहीं होगा? This will be governed by the income tax rules of India, which was introduced in the year 1962. So Income Tax Act 1961, then Income Tax Rules 1962. Who governs or who works on this income tax rules? Here starts the hierarchy of income tax body. The income tax rules are governed, or for that matter administered, by the Central Board of Direct Taxes, the appellate body of income tax authority. Central Board of Direct Taxes, which are responsible, or who is responsible for governing of all the income tax rules. So the valuation of perquisites, allowances, all this will be done by Central Board of Direct Taxes. Now, if some changes are to be introduced in income tax rules, in Income Tax Act, how do you bring about changes? Well, recently we all hear of Facebook. I think almost everybody in India, considered to be one of the major places where Facebook is used. We have something called as notifications. जैसे Facebook के notifications है, वैसे ही income tax के notifications है. फेसबुक पे नोटिफिकेशन कब आता है? जब आपको किसी ने कुछ एक्स्ट्रा चीज बताई हो, या एक्स्ट्रा लाइक मिले हो, या एक्स्ट्रा कमेंट दिया हो. वैसा ही कुछ यहाँ पे है. इफ some amendments are to be made, it is made in the form of notifications, and these notifications are published for the public at large through the official Gazette of India. So published for public at large is where you will see the notifications. So any amendment or any extra things are to be introduced, it will be done through the form of notifications. As we have seen that income tax law suffers from some amount of loopholes which get plugged over the years through various amendments or through various notifications that are introduced in the income tax rules by the form of notifications through Central Board of Direct Taxes. Then we come to something called as trade circulars. Trade circulars are nothing but clarificatory orders issued for assessee, that is the person who is liable to pay tax, and the income tax authorities. Any clarificatory order is required, take the form of trade circulars. And finally, one of the most important player of income tax law is judicial pronouncements. For that, let us first understand the hierarchy of income tax department, because these income tax department give way to judicial pronouncements. So hierarchy of income tax department and judicial pronouncements as a connecting to them is what we will try and understand in our next slide. So as I said, we will try and understand the taxation system in the form of a company and a constitution of India. How does it work? Let me write a company and the constitution of India. Now company in itself will not do anything. It has various officers, directors and employees of the company. Can I say there is something called as delegation of the authority by the company to its directors, employees and members of the company. The same way Constitution of India also works on the concept of something called as delegated legislation. As the name suggests, the delegation is of the powers. Delegation of the powers in order to properly function the various authorities governed to the government of India. Constitution of India has a Ministry of Finance. The same way as a company has its own finance department. A company will have its own finance department. One will look into the sales and the other will look into the expenses of the company. The sales department will look for marketing. Then post that there will be accounting. Post that there will be some expenditures. In the same way, the Constitution of India is also going to work for you. There is a Ministry of Finance. This Ministry of Finance looks after two things. One, revenue, and the other, expenditure. The revenue is governed by the Revenue Secretary, and the expenditure is governed by the Expenditure Secretary. Here, the Ministry of Finance is headed by the Finance Minister of India, who currently is Shri Arun Jaitley. Now, Revenue Secretary, what would be the main role of Revenue Secretary? Yes, it is a simple and straightforward thing, which is generation of revenues And in order to generate this revenue, a body called as Central Board of Direct Taxes has been established. Now, when I say this revenue secretary has to generate revenue, it is in the form of taxation, because for a constitution of India, for a government, it is not going to sell goods or services, as we saw in case of a company. A company will earn revenue by selling goods and services, whereas in case of a government, it is going to earn revenue through its taxation. And that is where the taxation system of India has been bifurcated into direct taxes and indirect taxes. Central Board of Direct Taxes heads the direct taxes department. Similarly, indirect taxes is headed by the Central Board of Excise and Customs. We are currently focusing on the direct taxes, Central Board of Direct Taxes. This has a hierarchy. The hierarchy is to be understood. Now, here there is somebody called as a Chief Commissioner of Income Tax. So first I would like to write CBDT. The members of CBDT are usually the experienced of Chief Commissioner of Income Tax. So people who are already a Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, when attain a particular amount of experience, move into the membership of CBDT. Parallelly, there is also called as DGIT, Director General of Income Tax, a parallel body to Chief Commissioner of Income Tax. Chief Commissioner of Income Tax manage the public. So wherever public role is there, the Chief Commissioner of Income Tax is there. Whereas the back end, the systems part, say in the form of TDS, in the form of investigations, in the form of search seizure, is managed, the back end system is managed by the Director General of Income Tax. Whereas the public role, the front end, is taken care by the CCIT. The number of CCIT, the number of Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, differs from place to place. A place like Bombay will have a good number of Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, whereas a small place, a small town may just have one Chief Commissioner of Income Tax. So that is not exactly specified. It differs from the area to area and the workload in different areas that are there. Below the Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, in the below hierarchy, we have the Commissioner of Income Tax. Parallelly here, we have Director of Income Tax. This Commissioner of Income Tax is, or rather further subdivided into Commissioner of Income Tax, again for public administration, and the other is Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals, who is responsible for the appellate matters governing the income tax authorities. So the job of Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals is only one, to manage the appellate procedures of the income tax department. So these are the top two hierarchies of Commissioner of Income Tax and Director General of Income Tax, or also called as Director of Income Tax. Below this hierarchy, we have somebody called as Additional Commissioner of Income Tax. Here we have Additional Director of Income Tax. Below the hierarchy, we have Joint Commissioner of Income Tax. Here we have Joint Director of Income Tax. Below this hierarchy, we have Deputy Commissioner of Income Tax. Here we have Deputy Director of Income Tax. Then Assistant Commissioner of Income Tax, and we have Assistant Director of Income Tax. So this is how the whole hierarchy is in terms of Assistant Commissioner of Income Tax and Assistant Director of Income Tax. This further has a hierarchy. The Additional Commissioner of Income Tax further has a hierarchy in the form of income tax officers, and then is the income tax inspector. This income tax inspector is more of related to the procedural work. These three, Deputy Commissioner of Income Tax, Assistant Commissioner of Income Tax, and income tax officers, are called as assessing officers, responsible for the assessment of the returns of income filed by the various persons under Income Tax Act. So they are responsible for the assessment. So the person will file the return of income and will be assessed by either of three. In very few or rare cases, Joint Commissioner of Income Tax also assumes the role of assessing officer. As I said, in very few cases. Other than that, it is the deputy, assistant, or income tax officer who is responsible for the assessment procedure of the income tax. So as we saw here, Constitution of India works on the concept of delegated legislation, which has a Ministry of Finance headed by the Finance Minister of India, bifurcated into Revenue Secretary and Expenditure Secretary. The Revenue Secretary is responsible for the taxation systems, managed into direct taxes and indirect taxes, governed by Central Board of Direct Taxes, established at New Delhi. This Central Board of Direct Taxes is further bifurcated through CCIT, DGIT systems. The CCIT, as I said, the public role, the front end, face the public. These are the back end or the systems managers of income tax related to TDS, investigation, search, seizure, raids, etc. Then starts the hierarchy. CIT, divided into CIT appeals and general CIT, additional CIT, joint CIT, then the assessing officers, the deputy CIT, assistant CIT, and income tax officer. DGIT, DIT, additional DIT, joint DIT, deputy DIT, and assistant DIT. This is how the whole structure or the hierarchy of income tax authorities is constituted. This is the hierarchy established for the income tax department. Now let us try and understand how does it work in terms of people like you and me. Well, as a person defined by the Income Tax Act, you will file a return of income. This return of income will be undertaken by the assessing officer. The assessing officer will then assess the income. Two things will happen here. Either it will be accepted by the assessee. Assessee means the person who is liable to pay tax, or it will not be accepted by the assessee. Well, if it is not accepted, what is the solution available to the assessee? If it is not acceptable to the assessee as to the assessment done by the assessing officer, in such cases appellate powers have been given. So an appeal can be filed to CIT appeals, Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals, which we just saw in our previous slide. Have a look, CIT appeals. This is where the assessee will file his appeal. Once the decision is given by the CIT appeals, again two things happen here. Either accepted by both assessing officer and assessee, or not accepted by both not accepted by either. So if it is in favor of the assessee, he will accept it, but the assessing officer may not accept, or vice versa. If it is in the favor of assessing officer, the assessing officer will accept it, but the assessee may not accept it. Well, in such situation, assessing officer or the assessee whose against the decision has been given can further move up the hierarchy in the form of income tax appellate tribunal. Income tax appellate tribunal is the next appellate where the appeals can be made. This income tax appellate tribunal is definitely not an income tax authority, but it forms a part of the income tax procedures, wherein the income tax appellate tribunal will give the final decision. Income tax appellate tribunal is also called as a final fact-finding authority. What is a fact-finding authority will be discussed in the upcoming slides. So here, as we move up the hierarchy, income tax appellate tribunal, again decision will be given either in favor of AO or in favor of assessee. Next in hierarchy is the High Court. The High Court will then give its decision. Again here two parts, in favor or against the assessing officer and the assessee. And the final appellate authority is called as the Supreme Court. Well, every state has its own High Court. Bombay High Court, Madras High Court, Calcutta High Court. Mind you, the word that I am using, it is not Mumbai, it is Bombay High Court. They are yet to change the name. It is still Madras High Court. It is still Calcutta High Court. So the names have not been changed in terms of High Court. So that's what terms that we will use. Finally, it is the Supreme Court which will give its decision, which will be the final decision. When Supreme Court gives the decision, it is as good as enacting of a law. This decision becomes a law. A decision given by Supreme Court. Supreme Court, obviously all over India there is only one Supreme Court. So the decision given by the Supreme Court becomes a law until and unless it is amended by the Parliament. So अगर Parliament ने इसको amend नहीं किया है तो Supreme Court का जो decision है is as good as an income tax act or an income tax law to be used throughout the country. It, as I said, can be amended by Parliament, and therefore if it is amended by Parliament, then it will overrule the decision given by the Supreme Court. Examples of the same are Vodafone case or Catholic Syrian Bank, wherein the Supreme Court judgment was overruled by an amended decision of the Parliament. So there is a Supreme Court decision. Next year, when the budget is being announced by the finance minister, that is when he may have the powers of amending the decision given by the Supreme Court. In terms of High Court, the decision given by the High Court is applicable to the respective state governments. So a decision given by the Rajasthan High Court will be applicable to all the assessees or all the cases going in Rajasthan. So that is where the importance of High Court is. The respective state have to accept the final decision given by the High Court. Then Income Tax Appellate Tribunal, CIT appeals, assessing officer, and the person who is filing the return of income. So guys, this is how the whole procedure works in terms of the income tax. I have given you a brief overview, one of why the taxation system exists in India. What is the scope of the taxation system in India? How is a taxation law enacted in India? What are the hierarchies and the authorities that are there in the Indian taxation system? And finally, we saw that how does the whole process of filing a return of income and finally taking it to the final appeal is adjudged by the Supreme Court. Here I will end my first session on the basics of taxation system in India. For further listening or attending to my sessions, do share your valuable feedback and also your likes. Thank you so much. Signing off, CA Sankalp Kanstiya.